Muir means to retire. By the way, let the man have an equal chance with your daughter, for it may facilitate future operations about the promotion. One would retire more cheerfully with such a companion as Mabel, than in cheerless widowhood, and with nothing but oneself to love. And such a self, too, as Davy's." "I hope, sir, my child will make a prudent choice, and I think her mind is already pretty much made up in favor of Pathfinder. Still she must have fair play, though disobedience is the next crime to mutiny." "Have all the ammunition carefully examined and dried as soon as you arrive. The damp of the lake may affect it. And now, once more, farewell, Sergeant. Beware of that Jasper, and consult with Muir in any difficulty. I shall expect you to return triumphant this day month." "God bless your honor! If anything should happen to me, I trust to you, Major Duncan, to care for an old soldier's character." "Rely on me, Dunham. You will rely on a friend. Be vigilant. Remember you will be in the very jaws of the lion. Pshaw! Of no lion neither, but of treacherous tigers, in their very jaws, and beyond support. Have the flints counted and examined in the morning. And farewell, Dunham, farewell." The Sergeant took the extended hand of his superior with proper respect, and they finally parted, Lundie hastening into his own movable abode, while the other left the fort, descended to the beach, and got into a boat. It is not to be supposed that Sergeant Dunham, after he had parted from his commanding officer, was likely to forget the injunctions he had received. He thought highly of Jasper in general, but distrust had been insinuated between his former confidence and the obligations of duty; and as he now felt that everything depended on his own vigilance, by the time the boat reached the side of the Scud he was in a proper humor to let no suspicious circumstance go unheeded, or any unusual movement of the young sailor pass without its comment. As a matter of course, he viewed things in the light suited to his peculiar mood, and his precautions, as well as his distrust, partook of the habits, opinions, and education of the man. The Scud's kedge was lifted as soon as the boat with the Sergeant, who was the last person expected, was seen to quit the shore, and the head of the cutter was cast to the eastward by means of the sweeps. A few vigorous strokes of the latter, in which the soldiers aided, now sent the light craft into the line or the current that flowed from the river, when she was suffered to drift into the offing again. As yet there was no wind, the light and almost imperceptible air from the lake, that had existed previously to the setting of the sun, having entirely failed. All this time an unusual quiet prevailed in the cutter. It appeared as if those on board of her felt they were entering upon an uncertain enterprise, in the obscurity of night, and that their duty, the hour, and the manner of their departure lent a solemnity to their movements. Discipline also came in aid of these feelings. Most were silent, and those who did speak, spoke seldom and in low voices. In this manner the cutter set slowly out into the lake, until she had got as far as the river current would carry her, when she became stationary, waiting for the usual land breeze. An interval of half an hour followed, during the whole of which time the Scud lay as motionless as a log floating on the water. While the little changes just mentioned were occurring in the situation of the vessel, notwithstanding the general quiet that prevailed, all conversation had not been repressed, for Sergeant Dunham, having first ascertained that both his daughter and her female companion were on the quarter-deck, led the Pathfinder to the after cabin, where, closing the door with great caution, and otherwise making certain that he was beyond the reach of eavesdroppers, he commenced as follows: "It is now many years, my friend, since you began to experience the hardships and dangers of the woods in my company." "It is, Sergeant; yes, it is. I sometimes fear I am too old for Mabel, who was not born until you and I had fought the Frenchers as comrades." "No fear on that account, Pathfinder. I was near your age before I prevailed on the mind of her mother, and Mabel is a steady, thoughtful girl, one that will regard character more than anything else. A lad like Jasper Eau douce, for instance, will have no chance with her, though he is both young and comely." "Does Jasper think of marrying?" inquired the guide, simply but earnestly. "I should hope not; at least, not until he has satisfied every one of his fitness to possess a wife. Jasper is a gallant boy, and one of great gifts in his way. He may claim a wife as well as another." "To be frank with you, Pathfinder, I brought you here to talk about this very youngster. Major Duncan has received some information which has led him to suspect that Eau douce is false, and in the pay of the enemy. I wish to hear your opinion on the subject." "Anan?" "I say, the Major suspects Jasper of being a traitor, a French spy, or what is worse, of being bought to betray us. He has received a letter to this effect, and has been charging me to keep an eye on the boy's movements, for he fears we shall meet with enemies when we least suspect it, and by his means." "Duncan of Lundie has told you this, Sergeant Dunham?" "He has indeed, Pathfinder; and though I have been loath to believe anything to the injury of Jasper, I have a feeling which tells me I ought to distrust him. Do you believe in presentiments, my friend?" "In what, Sergeant?" "Presentiments, a sort of secret foreknowledge of events that are about to happen. The Scotch of our regiment are great sticklers for such things, and my opinion of Jasper is changing so fast that I begin to fear that there must be some truth in their doctrines." "But you've been talking with Duncan of Lundie concerning Jasper, and his words have raised misgivings." "Not it, not so in the least; for, while conversing with the Major, my feelings were altogether the other way, and I endeavored to convince him all I could that he did the boy injustice. But there is no use in holding out against a presentiment, I find, and I fear there is something in the suspicion after all." "I know nothing of presentiments, Sergeant, but I have known Jasper Eau douce since he was a boy, and I have as much faith in his honesty as I have in my own, or that of the Sarpent himself." "But the Serpent, Pathfinder, has his tricks and ambushes in war as well as another." "Ay, them are his natural gifts, and are such as belong to his people. Neither redskin nor paleface can deny nature, but Chingachgook is not a man to feel a presentiment against." "That I believe, nor should I have thought ill of Jasper this very morning. It seems to me, Pathfinder, since I've taken up this presentiment, that the lad does not bustle about his deck naturally, as he used to do, but that he is silent and moody and thoughtful, like a man who has a load on his conscience." "Jasper is never noisy, and he tells me noisy ships are generally ill-worked ships. Master Cap agrees in this too. No, I will believe naught against Jasper until I see it. Send for your brother, Sergeant, and let us question him in this matter, for to sleep with distrust of one's friend in the heart is like sleeping with lead there. I have no faith in your presentiments." The Sergeant, although he scarcely knew himself with what object, complied, and Cap was summoned to join the consultation. As Pathfinder was more collected than his companion, and felt so strong a conviction of the good faith of the party accused, he assumed the office of spokesman. "We have asked you to come down, Master Cap," he commenced, "in order to inquire if you have remarked anything out of the common way in the movements of Eau douce this evening." "His movements are common enough, I daresay, for fresh water, Master Pathfinder, though we should think most of his proceedings irregular down on the coast." Yes, we know you will never agree with the lad about the manner the cutter ought to be managed, but it is on another point we wish your opinion." The Pathfinder then explained to Cap the nature of the suspicions which the Sergeant entertained, and the reasons why they had been excited, so far as the latter had been communicated by Major Duncan. "The youngster talks French, does he?" said Cap. "They say he speaks it better than common," returned the Sergeant gravely. "Pathfinder knows this to be true." "I'll not gainsay it," answered the guide. "At least, they tell me such is the fact, but this will prove nothing.